The other day, my son sent me a photograph from a recent family dinner. As I held my phone, my thumb resting on the cool glass of the screen, I had the strangest thought. I didn't quite recognize the woman smiling back at me. It wasn't about the lines around my eyes. Goodness knows, I've earned every one of those. It was that her hair, her posture, the way her glasses sat on her face, it all felt a bit accidental, unclaimed. I suspect some of you know exactly what I mean. So, you sit down at your computer, late at night perhaps, and you type it in, haircuts for women over 60. Then you pause and add, for a round face, and then, the final, most important detail, with glasses. You scroll through pictures of 2 5-year-old models and styles that seem to pretend your glasses don't exist. It's a particular kind of quiet frustration. You're not just looking for a new hairstyle. You're trying to find a picture of yourself for yourself. Well, in this video, I'm going to share 5 specific bob haircuts that I believe work beautifully. And more importantly, I'll give you the exact language to use so your stylist understands precisely what you're asking for. And stay with me, because the first one we'll discuss, the asymmetrical bob, plays a very clever trick on the eye that I think you'll appreciate. Before we begin, if this conversation already feels familiar to you, giving the video a like is a quiet way of letting me know. And if you'd like to join more of these talks, consider subscribing. We're building a rather nice community here. Now, before we get to that first clever haircut, we need to set the stage properly. For years, I think many of us have been looking at this the wrong way. The magazines and the marketing have subtly taught us to see our faces as a list of problems to be solved. A roundness that needs slimming, a jawline that needs softening, thinning hair that must be disguised. It is, frankly, exhausting. It's like spending your life trying to edit a book that's already been written. But what if we were to change the premise entirely? What if we stopped seeing problems and started seeing architecture? The curve of your jaw, the lines around your eyes, the very glasses that help you read the fine print. These are not flaws. They are the foundational structure of your face. They hold the 60+ years of your story. Think of it like a beautiful, substantial old book. You wouldn't dismiss it for a crease on its spine. You value it for its contents, for the story inside, for the satisfying heft of it in your hands. Our faces are the same. They have substance. This brings me to the central point, the one thing I hope you take away from our talk today if you take nothing else. A haircut shouldn't be a correction. It should be a frame. It is not there to hide you. It is there to present you. Its job is to draw the world's gaze to your eyes, to your smile, to the person who has earned her presence in the room. So, with that framework in mind, pun slightly intended, let's look at our first practical example, that clever asymmetrical bob I mentioned. All right, as I said, all of these haircuts are frames, not fixes. Let's begin with the first one, a very clever choice. The graduated asymmetrical bob. This is a classic for a reason. It has purpose. The graduated part simply means it's cut slightly shorter in the back and lengthens toward the front. This builds a subtle architecture at the back of your head, providing lift at the crown and preventing that flat look we can sometimes get. It creates a beautiful shape even from the back. But the asymmetrical part one side longer than the other is the clever trick I mentioned. It creates a strong, decisive diagonal line across your face. A person's eye doesn't see a circle. It instinctively follows that line, usually down past the jaw, drawing attention toward your mouth and away from the fullest part of the cheeks. This cut doesn't hide your face. It gives the eye a direction. This is a wonderful choice for the woman who appreciates intention, the woman whose checkbook is always balanced, who finds deep satisfaction in a well-organized bookshelf. It's a cut that says, I am deliberate, and my style is not an accident. If your hair is on the finer side, that graduation in the back is your best friend. It builds weightless volume. If you have thick hair, Your stylist can remove bulk with soft internal layers so it retains its shape. When you sit in that chair, you can say with confidence, "I would like a graduated asymmetrical bob. I need the lift in the back, and I want the long side to fall just past my jawline to draw the eye downward." Giving those precise instructions makes all the difference. So that gives us a very deliberate and architectural choice. But what if you're not looking for sharp intention, but something softer and more poetic? That brings us to a style whose very name can make some people nervous. The soft edge shag bob. Now, when I say shag, please don't picture the wild, choppy cuts of another era. Think of this as its much more refined, modern cousin. The magic here is in the soft, blended layers, particularly those that frame the face. Unlike a blunt cut that creates hard lines, this style is all about creating movement and a gentle diffusion of shape. It breaks up the roundness of the face, not with sharp angles, but with soft texture, which can be incredibly flattering. Where the last cut was deliberate and architectural, this one is more poetic and organic. This style doesn't command attention, it invites it. This is for the woman who prefers a comfortable sweater to a crisp blazer. Perhaps she's a gardener, a reader, or simply someone who values a relaxed, approachable elegance. It's an effortless-looking style for a life that is full but not fussy. It implies a comfort in one's own skin. This cut is a particular gift for hair that's on the finer side, as the layers create the illusion of more body and airiness. If you have a natural wave, it will practically style itself. When you speak to your stylist, you'll want to use words like soft, blended, and movement. You could say, "I'd love a bob with soft face-framing layers to break up the roundness. I want it to feel light and be able to move." The goal is a style that you can run your hands through, and it still falls back into place beautifully, feeling as natural as a breezy Sunday afternoon. From that soft, lived-in ease, we're now going to make a rather bold shift. We're moving from the poetic to the precise, with a cut that sounds intimidating but is the very definition of modern. The Jawline Skimming Blunt Bob. Now, a blunt cut on a round face can sound intimidating. There's a natural fear it will create a helmet effect. But the entire secret to making this sophisticated style work lies in two non-negotiable details: the precise length and the dramatic part. First, the length. It must skim the jawline no shorter, no longer. That sharp, clean line creates an intentional, architectural baseline for your face. The real magic, however, comes from a deep side part. By parting the hair far over on one side, you create a sweeping, asymmetrical angle across the forehead. This powerful visual interruption completely counteracts the symmetry of the face, breaking up the roundness and drawing all the attention directly to your eyes, especially above the frame of your glasses. This isn't just a haircut, it's a statement of chic simplicity. This is for the woman who loves modern art, who appreciates the timelessness of a classic trench coat, or who wears a single, bold piece of silver jewelry. She's confident, uncluttered, and understands that the simplest statements are often the most powerful. This style holds its shape beautifully on medium to thick hair. If your hair is very fine, ask your stylist to slightly bevel the ends, which encourages them to curve inward and creates the illusion of a stronger line. When you're in the chair, be specific. You can say, "I'd like a blunt bob that skims my jawline with a very clean, sharp line and no layers." You'll know it's perfect when you can feel that perfectly even, almost sharp edge of the ends against your fingertips. That's the feeling of precision. It makes me think, have you ever had a haircut or worn a simple outfit that unexpectedly made you feel more powerful and confident? I would be fascinated to read about that moment in the comments. From that clean, minimalist precision, let's take a trip to Paris for something with a bit more charm and mischief. The French bob. From the sharp precision of our last bob, we travel to Paris for something with a bit more insouciance. The classic French bob is typically shorter than the styles we've been discussing, often sitting somewhere between the cheekbone and the lip line, and it's almost always paired with a fringe. The genius of this cut lies in its elevation. Its shorter length draws all the energy of the style upward, concentrating the focus on the upper half of the face, your eyes, your cheekbones, and the frames of your glasses. It visually lifts everything. The fringe is crucial, but it must be soft and piecey, not a heavy, solid block. It should skim the eyebrows lightly, preventing a harsh horizontal line, and instead creating a soft frame. This cut doesn't follow the rules of the face. It makes its own. This is for the woman with a bit of mischief in her eyes, the woman who might wear a brightly colored scarf just because it's a Tuesday, who believes style should have a sense of humor and joy. It's unapologetically charming and confident. His style is wonderful on fine to medium hair, as it's meant to be light and airy. A bit of natural wave is a huge advantage, as this cut is supposed to look lived in, not perfectly coiffed. You can tell your stylist, "I'm inspired by the classic French bob. Let's aim for a length around my lip line, with a light, piecey fringe." The goal is to look chic and just a little undone, as if you just spent a lovely afternoon at a local farmer's market and didn't give your hair a second thought. I love the confidence of that cut, but I know that for many of us, going quite that short feels like too big a leap. So for our final option, let's look at something that gives you length and flexibility without sacrificing the internal layer lob. Our final option is for those who love the idea of a bob, but aren't quite ready to commit to the shorter lengths we've discussed. It's the lob, or long bob, and its strength is its modern versatility. A lob is typically cut to rest gently on the shoulders or graze the collarbone. The risk, especially on a rounder face, is that if it's all one length, it can look a bit heavy or drag the features down. The solution is a brilliant, subtle technique: internal layers. Instead of cutting visible, choppy layers on the surface, the stylist removes weight and creates movement from within the haircut. It's a way of engineering body and shape into the hair without sacrificing the clean, elegant line of the long bob. It prevents the style from looking like a heavy curtain. This style is a secret between you and your hair. This is perhaps the most pragmatic choice on our list. It's for the woman who wants a change but also values flexibility. The woman who might need to tie her hair back for gardening or playing with her grandchildren, but still wants to look polished for a dinner out. It is low risk, modern, and enduringly elegant. This technique is a game changer for thick or coarse hair, as it removes bulk without creating frizz. On finer hair, it should be done sparingly, just to give the ends shape. This might be a new concept for some stylists, so be clear. You can say, "I'd like a long bob that rests on my collarbone. I don't want visible layers, but could you please take some weight out from underneath with soft internal layers to give it movement?" The result should feel lighter than it looks, a subtle, freeing movement against your collarbone as you turn your head. Now that we have our 5 wonderful yes options, I feel it's just as important to briefly discuss a few no's. Think of this as the final chapter in our little guidebook, the one on navigating potential traps. Having a beautiful cut is often as much about what your stylist doesn't do as what they do. The first trap is what I call the shelf layer. This often happens when we ask for volume. A stylist might cut short, chunky layers on the top section of a bob, particularly in the back. Instead of blending, they sit there like a little step. It's a dated look that can actually highlight thinning at the crown. A modern style should have seamless, not sudden layers. The second is the severe, blunt fringe. As we discussed with the French bob, softness is key. A heavy, straight-across fringe can be very harsh, visually cutting the face in half and widening it. Always use the words soft, piecey, or blended when discussing bangs. And the final, most important warning: beware of chasing volume in the wrong places. The fastest route to that dreaded helmet look is too much teasing and spraying on the sides of the head. That stiff, immovable feeling where your hair doesn't stir even in a breeze, that's what we want to avoid. True. Modern volume should be focused at the crown for vertical lift, not at the sides for horizontal width. And so, that brings us to the end of our chat. The thread that runs through all of this, from a sharp asymmetrical line to the softest shag, is not about fixing our faces or hiding our age. It's about intention. It's about understanding the architecture of a cut and using it to frame the person you are today, with all the wisdom and character you've earned. The most flattering haircut in the world is simply one that you wear with confidence, because you understand the why behind it. It's a quiet, daily declaration that you deserve to be seen, and seen beautifully. I would be so genuinely interested to hear your thoughts. Which of these styles felt most like you? Or, if you've already found a cut that brings you joy, please share what it is in the comments. Let's build our own lookbook right here, a true library of shared wisdom. Thank you for spending this time with me. And I do hope to see you again, because next time, we're going to talk about an even more personal journey, going gray. Specifically, the single biggest mistake most women make, and the feeling nobody prepares you for when you see yourself in the mirror after the color is all gone. That's a story that's very close to my heart. I'll see you then.